Allan had no job and nothing going on in his life. All he wanted was to play the hardest game he could find. So when he found a sketchy game with a hell mode, he jumped on it. Next thing he knows, he wakes up as a regular guy in a world full of magic and swords. No guide, no second chances, just survival. Allan was a jobless gamer with one obsession: finding a game hard enough to actually challenge him. He spent every waking hour locked in his room, playing one title after another and cursing each one for not being difficult enough. One day, fed up with everything available, he decided to search the internet for the most brutally difficult, most horribly balanced game in existence. The moment he hit the search button, his screen changed. An ad appeared, one he had never seen before, inviting him to join a fantasy world of swords and magic in a game that never ends. Confident that nothing could satisfy his appetite for punishment, he clicked in. The game gave him a difficulty selection screen. After easy, normal, and extra hard, a fourth option appeared: Hell Mode. The description warned him that he would face so much despair that he would not even have the time to regret choosing it. Allan shrugged and selected it anyway, telling the screen he had heard that line too many times to be impressed. The game then informed him that in Hell Mode, leveling up required 100 times more experience than normal mode, and presented him with a list of character classes to choose from. Swordsman and Spear User were flagged as the easiest. Hero and Demon Lord sat at high difficulty, but the Summoner class carried the highest difficulty rating of all, and that was exactly what Allan was after. He selected it without hesitation. The game assigned him the social class of a serf, essentially a commoner, in the game world, and informed him the game was still in alpha testing. Allan didn't mind. He was happy to be a tester. He accepted the terms and conditions and clicked confirm. A bright light exploded from his monitor, and Allan vanished from Earth entirely. The next thing he felt was a dark, warm, and oddly peaceful sensation, like floating in a calm ocean. He was enjoying it right up until things started feeling very tight around him, and he realized with growing alarm that something was very wrong. He called out for someone to get him out, and in another world entirely, a woman was doing exactly that. She pushed hard, and Allan was delivered into the world, reborn, crying, and held by a man he had never met. The game system greeted him and told him that if he could overcome everything standing in his path, he would uncover the fundamental truth of this world. 1 year passed. Allan played the role of an infant with surprising commitment, despite being a 35-year-old gamer on the inside. He couldn't speak yet, but his memories and full intellectual capacity from his previous life remained intact, and he was genuinely grateful for that. He had already gathered a fair amount of information about his new circumstances. His parents were serfs living in a nameless village where they farmed land and paid taxes to a local lord. His father, in this life, was Roden, a hardworking and dependable family man. His mother was Terea, a warm and gentle woman still in her late teens. Watching the two of them together, Allan could already tell he was going to have younger siblings before long. One evening after dinner, Terea put him to bed and went back to finish eating. Alone at last, Allan decided to attempt something he had been trying without success for weeks: accessing his status window. He focused and tried to summon it. Nothing happened as usual. He tried again. Still nothing. Frustrated but not surprised, he made one more half-hearted attempt, and a book materialized in front of him. He panicked and screamed, which immediately brought both his parents rushing to the room. He made the book vanish before they could see it, then pretended to be talking in his sleep. Once they left, he summoned it again. The book contained his stats and skill details. He was a level 1 summoner with 2 skills, Summon and Create, both of which leveled up through repeated use. A list of available summons was included, though at his current level he could only create H-ranked insects and beasts. The difficulty was already living up to its name. Then a random page in the middle of the book began to glow and opened on its own. It was a letter from Elmia, the god who had created this world, apologizing for the delay in delivering his grimoire, which served as his status window. Elmia explained that because Allan had selected a character class still under development, a significant amount of paperwork had been required to get the grimoire ready. They hoped he enjoyed the game. Allan didn't hold the delay against them. He was far more interested in exploring what he now had access to. He turned to the summoning page and attempted to create some insects. No matter what he tried, nothing appeared. He sat with the problem and arrived at a theory. Perhaps he needed to use the create skill before the summon skill could work. He tested it and was immediately proven right. An insect card appeared in his hand. Before he could do anything else, he heard Terea approaching and quickly pretended to be asleep. The exhaustion caught up with him naturally shortly after, and he decided to attempt the actual summoning in the morning. The next day, while his parents were out working, Allan summoned the creature he had created the night before. Small blue orbs of light filled the room, merged together, and took the shape of a massive grasshopper. Allan stared at it. He tried giving it commands. It ignored him completely. Just a large, dumb bug with no interest in following orders. He checked the grimoire and found that he could assign it a name, so he called it Dina. He also discovered that simply summoning the grasshopper had already boosted his endurance and agility by 1 point each. Excited, he let out a yelp, which brought Theria in to check on him. She spotted the giant grasshopper, screamed, and crushed it under her foot without a second thought. Over the following days, Allan continued experimenting with his summons. He eventually created and summoned an H-ranked mouse, which boosted his HP and agility. It was equally unresponsive to instructions, but it had a skill called Scurry that caused it to run in circles on command. Marginally useful, but it was something. He also worked out that he could hold up to 10 summons simultaneously and that the stat bonuses from each one stacked, which made him considerably stronger than any infant had any right to be. One afternoon, while Theria was playing with him after finishing her chores, Roden came home covered in blood. She was horrified until he explained it was from a great boar that he and the other villagers had hunted together. Allan was curious and wanted to see the creature, so Roden hoisted him up onto his shoulders and took him outside. Allan's first real look at the world beyond his house. Roden pointed out a flock of winged monsters soaring overhead and told him they signaled the arrival of autumn. He told Allan to grow up and be like those creatures, free to go wherever they wanted, with no ceiling above them. Allan dozed off somewhere in the middle of this motivational speech and woke up only when they arrived at the hunting site. The boar was far larger than he had imagined. An entire crew was working to carve it up. A man named Jera appeared and led the crowd in applauding Roden as the standout performer of the hunt. Roden, slightly embarrassed by the attention, quickly shifted the focus to introducing Allan to everyone. Jera was visibly taken aback by how composed and well-mannered a one-year-old appeared to be, and he answered Allan's questions about monsters patiently. Allan learned that the Great Boar was a C-rank monster that required a team of 20 to bring down. He quietly filed that away as a personal benchmark. 10 months of consistent training with his summons later, Allan leveled up for the first time. New sections of the grimoire unlocked, along with new skills. He could now create G-rank summons and fuse existing ones together. His maximum number of active summons had doubled, and the grimoire had gained the ability to read and record his thoughts, a feature he wasn't sure he had much use for, but appreciated nonetheless. He was eager to try fusing summons, but the grimoire informed him he didn't yet have enough mana to attempt it. The same limitation blocked him from creating G-rank summons. He cursed the hell mode difficulty and accepted that he would have to wait. Time moved forward, and Allan turned 3. His mana capacity had grown enough that he could now work with G-rank creatures and attempt fusions. He fused a G-rank insect with a G-rank animal and produced a G-rank bird that was smart enough to follow his commands and could perfectly mimic human speech. His G-rank insect turned out to be a frog, which said something about the game developer's knowledge of biology. The frog had a skill that provoked enemies into attacking it. His G-rank mole could dig large tunnels on command. Allan thought all 3 had genuine combat potential, but acknowledged they were still a bit too unreliable to bring into actual battle just yet. Then, as if on cue, he heard the voice he had been dreading. Karina, his energetic, pink-haired friend from the village, had arrived for their daily play session. She insisted, as always, on playing knights and dueling with wooden swords. Despite the agility boost from his summon stats, Allan could not keep up with her. She swung her sword with the precision and aggression of someone who had been training for years, and by the end of the session, Allan was flat on the ground, thoroughly beaten. His parents came home. Karina cheerfully said goodbye, and Allan dragged himself back up and helped carry some of his very pregnant mother's groceries as they walked home together. At dinner, Allan surprised his parents by asking if he could help with the potato harvest, given that Theria couldn't do much heavy work in her condition. His parents were quietly stunned. They told him warmly that he was still a child, and there would be plenty of time for farm work when he was older. For now, he should enjoy being a kid and spending time with Karina. Allan understood the weight behind their words. They were serfs, and they fully expected him to grow up as one too. They didn't want to see their 3-year-old son taking on burdens before he had to. He decided to respect their wishes. Then, Tharea mentioned, almost as an aside, that she had noticed him throwing rocks at the tree in the backyard and asked what he was doing. Allan declared that he was training to protect her from the monsters in the forest. Roden lit up with pride and lifted him high. Allan felt a small twinge of guilt since he had actually just been testing whether he could develop new skills on his own. Tharea told him to protect Karina too while he was at it. Allan thought privately that Karina was not the one who needed protecting. She was the one everyone else needed protecting from. Roden mentioned that since both children enjoyed playing knights, he was hopeful they would perform well at the appraisal ceremony. Allan asked about it, and his parents explained that at the age of 5, every child in the village underwent an appraisal to identify any exceptional talents. For those with the right abilities, the ceremony could be a genuine path out of serf life entirely. Winter arrived shortly after, and by then, Allan could sustain an insect summon for an entire day. He felt good about his progress until Karina showed up and reminded him through another effortless defeat that there was still a long way to go. Then one day, the grasshopper he had carelessly left out in the open startled Tharea so badly that she went into labor on the spot. Roden sent Karina running to fetch her parents while he stayed with his wife and offered what comfort he could. Allan helped by heating water, privately wishing he had spent any amount of time in his previous life on childbirth simulation games. Karina returned quickly with her parents, Matilda and Jera. Matilda took one look at the situation, immediately assumed command, and expelled all the men from the house. After a long and tense night, the sound of a crying baby cut through the silence. The men rushed back inside to find that Allan now had a baby brother. Tharea asked Roden to name him, and he chose the name Mash. Everyone smiled, until Tharea realized Roden had named their son after a monster. Roden went visibly nervous. Then Tharea started laughing, and the tension dissolved. Allan sat quietly with it all. In his previous life, he had been a directionless gamer going nowhere. In this one, he had a goal: to clear the game, reach the top, and somehow pull his entire family out of the life of a serf. A couple of years later, Roden took Allan to the nearby village for the appraisal ceremony. Allan was naturally curious about the whole thing, so Roden explained on the way. The ceremony was a special event that every child participated in upon turning 5, from the lowest-ranked serfs all the way up to the highest-ranked nobles. If someone showed exceptional talent, they had a real shot at rising above their social class. Allan asked about the competition side of it, and Roden explained that without modern entertainment or birth control, people in this world kept themselves busy in other ways, which meant a lot of children had turned 5 this year. Among them were Allan and his best friend Karina, who was walking to the village alongside them with her father. When they arrived, the size of the village immediately caught Allan's attention. It was far more developed and prosperous than anything he was used to. The commoners here were clean and well presented. By comparison, the serfs looked wildly out of place. Allan was surprised that serfs and commoners were even attending the same ceremony, but the cold glances from the locals made it obvious that the two groups were not considered equals here. They made their way to the church, where the priests welcomed the children and their parents warmly, speaking about the gods giving every child an equal chance when they enter the world. They mentioned legendary heroes who had been born as serfs and risen to greatness. Allan finally understood how the social class system and the character class system in this world were connected. The priests led everyone inside and gathered them in front of the altar. Allan noticed the statue of Elmia, the god of creation, the same one who had written him a letter not long ago. The ceremony began with the village chief's son being called forward first. The boy nervously placed his hand near the crystal ball, and his stats appeared on the large black stone mounted behind the altar, just like the grimoire display Allan was familiar with. The boy had below-average stats across the board, with the exception of intelligence and luck, and the crystal revealed a talent for being a merchant. His father was overjoyed. Allan couldn't initially understand what all the excitement was about, but his grimoire quietly informed him that not everyone possessed a talent. Having one at all was considered a significant achievement. Allan quietly appreciated the fact that nobody else could see his grimoire. The appraisals continued. One boy had no talent at all, but his father hugged him regardless. The next boy turned out to be an axe user and became the first child of the day to receive an S-rank stat. The remaining children were appraised one after another until only Karina and Allan were left. The priests called Karina first. She sprinted up to the crystal ball and placed her hand near it, and it immediately erupted in blinding light. Her stats appeared on the stone monument and left the priests visibly stunned. Karina had a Sword Lord talent with S-rank attack power. Her father was overjoyed, understanding immediately that his daughter could lift the entire family out of serf life. Allan, watching from the crowd, thought quietly that it now made perfect sense why she had been beating him senseless every single day. Then it was his turn. The crystal ball glowed faintly once, and then exploded in a light even brighter than Karina's had produced. Allan felt a flash of excitement, thinking his parents were about to find out just how exceptional he was, but his father couldn't read, so he turned to the priests for help. The priests looked at the results and told him, with visible regret, that his son had no talent. Allan ran to the stone monument himself. Every single stat was E-ranked, and the talent column displayed what looked like a garbled capture code, some kind of text glitch. He immediately began composing a scathing review for the developers in his head. Then he felt his father's hands settle gently on his shoulders, telling him they should head home. His parents took the result with complete calm. They told Allan it didn't matter. They would always be proud of him. Despite feeling a bit stung by the outcome, Allan felt grateful to have been born into a family like this, even if they were completely broke. That night, he thought it through and concluded that his stats being locked at E rank was almost certainly a consequence of selecting Hell Mode. Rather than sinking into disappointment, he felt a surge of energy. This was exactly the kind of brutal difficulty he had been looking for. He was still annoyed about the text glitch in the talent column, though that felt like sloppy development work. The following day, Allan went with his parents to Karina's house to celebrate her results. On the walk over, he noticed that his father seemed irritated for no clear reason. Even at the celebration party, Rodin kept to himself, sulking quietly in the corner. Jera looked equally unsettled. The two men began exchanging passive-aggressive jabs at each other until Jera finally confronted Rodin directly, asking how he could say what he apparently said about severing ties between their families. Rodin explained his reasoning. Karina's talent could one day make her a noble, and Jera should stop associating with poor serfs and start building connections with high society instead. Allan realized his father was trying to do something genuinely selfless for his friend, entirely without being asked. The two men started arguing over it. Allan, worried the fight would escalate, asked Karina to intervene. She reached for her wooden sword. Fortunately, their mothers stepped in before either option became necessary and shut the argument down. Allan asked Matilda whether Rodin and Jera always fought like this. She said they used to be far worse when they were young, but fatherhood had mellowed them both out considerably. She and Therea explained that all four of them had been childhood friends from the same village, and when a new settlement was being established nearby, they had volunteered to populate it together, building their homes side by side and starting their new lives as neighbors. Recounting the old memories softened the mood, and Rodin and Jera quietly set the argument aside and moved on to sharing a drink instead. The next day, as Jera was out working with the other villagers, someone rushed over to tell him that knights had arrived at his home asking for Karina. He immediately dropped everything and hurried back. A crowd had already gathered in the commoner village, including the axe user boy from the ceremony. He spotted Allan and wasted no time telling him that talentless kids had no business being there. Karina immediately stood up for Allan, declaring that he was there because he was strong. The boy refused to believe her and kept pushing. Karina came very close to biting his finger before her father pulled her back. Then, the village chief called for order, announcing that the knights had arrived. The crowd parted, and a group of knights entered led by a swordmaster named Xenov. Karina was thrilled to be in the presence of real knights. Xenov spoke briefly with the village chief before calling Karina and Jera forward. Allan thought back to 3 years earlier when he and Karina had started playing at being knights together. Now she might actually be taken away to become one. He already felt the quiet ache of losing his only friend before it had even happened. Then things took a sharp turn. Jera objected to something Xenov proposed, pointing out that Karina was only 5 years old and had never held a real sword, so there was no way she could pass whatever test was being suggested. Zainoff responded coolly that a sword lord's abilities were natural. It would be expected that she win. He even implied that Jera might be lying about his daughter's talent to deceive the nobility. As Jera tried to defend himself, Zainoff ordered his deputy to begin preparations. Jera pleaded for him to stop, but Zainoff explained that making false claims during an appraisal was a crime punishable by death. To verify the result, they would be organizing a fencing duel. The announcement shocked everyone present. Jera begged for mercy, telling them his daughter wasn't ready for a real fight. Zainoff replied plainly. If she couldn't prove her talent through the duel, her entire family would face the consequences. Allan thought it was completely unreasonable. But then, Karina spotted a knight carrying a sword over to her, and her eyes lit up immediately. The moment she found out she was being given a real blade to use, she told her father without hesitation that she would take the duel. Jera couldn't believe what he was hearing. He had no real choice but to allow it. The crowd gathered to watch the duel between Karina and the vice captain of the knights, a spear user. Karina charged in eagerly, swinging a sword nearly as tall as she was. She exchanged blow after blow with the vice captain, who deflected each one with a completely calm expression. The crowd was visibly stunned watching a 5-year-old move like that. Allan thought it made sense. She had been training every single day for 3 years, even if her opponent was a proper adult warrior. He was still worried she might not have the experience to hold her ground. His concern proved valid when the vice captain made his first offensive move and pushed her back. She immediately countered, which caught him slightly off guard, and he instinctively kicked her into the wall rather than face her sword head-on. Jera erupted and had to be physically restrained by the knights. Allan and Roden were also pinned down. Allan thought that even for a sword lord, fighting a full-grown adult knight was a different kind of challenge. Karina hit the ground. Then she stood back up. A blue aura flared around her body. The vice captain visibly tensed. She had activated an extra skill. Her eyes went cold, and she charged without hesitation, pushing the vice captain back with relentless attacks he had no real answer to. Then she snapped his sword clean in half with a single powerful strike. Zainoff immediately declared the duel over. Karina looked disappointed it had ended so quickly. She turned to the vice captain and thanked him for the fight, calling him quite strong for an old man. He told her he was 24. He admitted defeat, and the entire village erupted in cheers for the girl who had just beaten the vice captain of the Royal Knights. Jera let out a long breath of relief, deeply proud of his daughter. Roden and Allan shared the feeling. Zainoff stepped forward and commended Karina's talent. Jera was still cool toward him, but then Zainoff offered a genuine apology for his earlier conduct and asked to speak about Karina's future, and suggested Jera bring his friends along for support. Jera accepted, and the group gathered around the dining table at the village chief's home. The axe user boy and his father were there as well, and Allan quietly reminded himself that he had no intention of being left behind when everything started moving forward. Zainoff opened by saying he was glad a sword lord had appeared in this village. He then explained the context. 3 years earlier, a baron's son had been identified as a sword lord during his appraisal. When he showed no corresponding strength in practice, they had him reappraised and discovered his actual talent was that of an ordinary swordsman. Further investigation revealed that several nobles had misrepresented their talents, which led to the current policy of rigorously testing any high-stakes talent before accepting it. He apologized again to Jera for putting Karina through that, and Jera, now understanding the reason behind it, let go of his frustration. Zainoff told him to continue raising Karina exactly as he had been doing. When she turned 12, she would be eligible to enroll in the academy and become a knight serving directly under the king. The axe user boy's father immediately jumped in, asking whether his son could also join the academy and become a knight one day. Zainoff confirmed it and said a tutor would be dispatched to the village soon. The boy should work hard in preparation. Allan sat quietly through all of it, helping himself to fruit from the table when he thought no one was looking, until Karina announced that they would go to the academy together. The axe user boy immediately scoffed, saying that someone without talent had no place there. Karina rounded on him instantly. Xenoph grew curious and asked about Allan. Jera and Roden introduced him. Xenoph immediately stood up to pay his respects to Roden. To Roden's complete surprise, Xenoph explained that the Baron of the region was fond of the boar meat the village supplied each winter, and that Roden's name had come up repeatedly as the standout hunter behind those hunts. He passed along the Baron's personal commendation. Allan looked at his father with new appreciation. On the walk home, Roden told Allan that even an ordinary serf could earn recognition if they worked hard enough, and told him to carry himself with pride and keep pushing because he had his father's blood in him. Allan smiled and pulled out the fruit he had smuggled from the table to show him. Roden paused, then pulled out a couple of pieces he had pocketed himself. Like father, like son. Allan let out an excited scream. He had finally leveled up after years of grinding. All his existing skills had improved, and on top of that he had received a brand new skill called Enhance. He immediately wondered whether it could make his summons even stronger. He also noticed he could now create and summon F-rank creatures, and began thinking about what new fusions were possible. He daydreamed briefly about summoning a dragon at his current level, then moved on to checking the other improvements. His grimoire could now hold up to 30 creature cards, giving him a 50% boost to the stats he gained from summoning. He acknowledged he was progressing slowly, 2 full years between level ups, but didn't dwell on it, despite the crater his daily rock throwing had carved into the backyard tree. His mother was pregnant again, and Allan had taken on more household responsibilities. His parents debated whether it would be a boy or a girl, both hoping for a girl so Terea could finally choose the name. Just then, Allan's mana refilled and he opened his grimoire to find another letter from Elmia, the god of creation. He said the name out loud and immediately earned a sharp scolding from Roden for taking the god's name in vain. Not wanting to sit through the full lecture, Allan distracted everyone by pointing out that an old scar on Roden's arm had vanished. Roden explained it was because he had passed the trial of the gods during the boar hunt, a special event where hunters suddenly feel a surge of energy and their wounds heal completely. Allan immediately recognized this as the leveling up process, which the people of this world simply called the trial of gods. He figured his father must be at a decent level given his years of experience as a veteran hunter, while Allan himself was still stuck at level 1. He knew he needed to hunt monsters to level up, but serfs weren't permitted to leave the village without authorization unless it was for a hunt. He floated the idea casually by saying how nice it would be to go hunting. Roden shut it down instantly. Hunting was dangerous and no place for a child. Allan dropped it and moved on. That night, he finally read Elmia's letter. As expected, the developers had fixed the text glitch that prevented his summoner class from displaying properly at the appraisal ceremony. They had also sent a divine oracle to the Pope so the class would be recognized officially going forward. They had additionally addressed why all of Allan's stats appeared as E rank. The standard calculation method used growth rate to determine potential, which didn't apply to his class. They included a special potential display page that ignored growth speed entirely. When Allan checked it, his stats were actually impressive across the board, except for attack and endurance. His mana and intelligence were both S rank, which made sense for a summoner. The downside was that in Hell mode, reaching that potential would be nearly impossible. Allan wasn't bothered. He immediately tried the enhanced skill on a grasshopper summon, found that it boosted the creature's stats but not his own, and summoned the glowing golden grasshopper, which his mother promptly walked in and crushed underfoot. The next day, with Roden out on a hunt and the chores finished, Allan ran fusion experiments. Most combinations failed, but fusing bugs with birds produced a grass-type creature, a result he found baffling but accepted. The summon turned out to boost his mana capacity, allowing for more summons and fusions going forward. He summoned it and found himself staring at a small apple with stick-like arms and legs. Its special ability was called Aroma. He commanded it to use the skill, and it sank into the ground and grew into a sweet-smelling sapling. Allan thought it was a fairly useless ability, but his mother loved the scent, so he left it where it was. Karina came over later to practice as usual. Allan got beaten as expected, but she noticed he had improved slightly. He knew why. His sword mastery skill had reached level 3 from daily sparring, and his summon stats had grown as well. After she left, he went back to throwing rocks at the tree and found himself mentally drained. He was still at level 1. He had to watch over Mash, keep up with chores, and wasn't even sure the rock throwing was doing anything useful. He had also cultivated a small patch of apple tree saplings since their scent reduced recovery time by 6 hours. That night, Allan and Tharea waited anxiously for Roden to return. He was late. Then they heard a commotion outside. The villagers were carrying Roden home on a wooden board, badly injured, with a deep wound across his stomach. Jera explained that Roden had taken a boar tusk straight to the gut and would have died before reaching home if they hadn't had a rare medicinal herb on hand. Tharea asked where the herb had come from. Jera said the knight captain had given him a small sum of money as an apology for his conduct toward Karina, and he had used it to buy the herbs. Some villagers began blaming the commoners for what happened and were ready to escalate the situation. Mash wandered out after hearing the noise and started crying, so Allan took him back inside to sleep. Jera calmed the remaining villagers and stayed behind to watch over his friend. Allan quietly approached Jera and asked if a commoner was truly responsible for his father's injury. Jera confirmed it. He explained that the village chief had recently allowed commoners to join the boar hunts. Boar meat was valuable, and while most went to the baron, the remainder was divided among the hunters. Commoners could only obtain it through trade and rarely volunteered for hunts because they knew they couldn't handle a giant monster. This time was different. After hearing Knight Captain Xenov praise Roden so highly, they assumed they would be safe with him around. Neither Jera nor Roden had wanted the commoners involved, but they couldn't refuse the chief's order. To make it worse, many commoners hadn't taken the training seriously, unwilling to learn from serfs they considered beneath them. On the day of the hunt, they were assigned to keep the boar distracted while the others attacked. They panicked, dropped their weapons, and ran. One of them tripped and fell, and Roden took a tusk to the gut, saving him. They somehow defeated the boar and kept Roden alive with the herb. Jera promised to bring Roden's share of the meat the following day and told them to stay strong. The next morning, Allan found his mother tending to his father and offered to take over. She said she was fine. Then Roden jolted awake, still mentally in the middle of the hunt. His family was relieved to see him come back to his senses. In that moment, something shifted in Allan. He realized he had been grinding purely for the sake of growing stronger, without any real purpose behind it. This world wasn't a game for the people living in it, including his own family. They were real. He decided then that his power needed to serve a purpose, to keep them safe, especially now that his father couldn't move. Jera arrived with Roden's share from the hunt and was glad to see him conscious. He told Roden not to worry about anything and that the village would cover for his family through the winter. Allan spoke up and asked his father's permission to take on his responsibilities in the meantime. He started that same day, drawing water from the well and hauling heavy buckets that would have strained most adults. The villagers were stunned. Allan had quietly maxed out his physical stats through his summons, deciding that raw strength was what his family needed most right now. He wasn't worried about the attention it drew. Karina was unusual enough that people had bigger things to talk about. After the water delivery, he headed to the fields where Jera taught him to harvest potatoes. Jera told him to use both hands to uproot them. Allan pulled out an entire bunch with one hand. He credited his father's genes and worked through the entire field in a single day. Staring at the harvest afterward, he thought bitterly about how more than half of it would end up in the Baron's hands. Then guests arrived, the village chief and the man whose carelessness had led to Roden's injury. The chief brought fruit as a gesture, and the man apologized sincerely. Roden responded with quiet generosity, telling him simply to be more careful in the future if he intended to keep hunting. Tharea, however, was less forgiving. She told him plainly that everyone, regardless of social class, had a family waiting for them, and no one's life should be treated carelessly. The rest of the village serfs showed up shortly after to check on Roden, and their familiar, slightly chaotic presence gradually softened Therea's mood. The following day, Allan headed alone to an open field with a plan to help his family get through winter. He summoned his frogs and set up basic traps, then commanded the frogs to use their provoke skill, hoping to lure wild birds he could bring home. Nothing came. He was about to give up when a bird appeared in the distance. He got ready, then realized it wasn't a wild bird at all. It was an alba heron, a B-rank monster. It tore through his traps without effort and defeated his frogs one by one. Allan knew he was outmatched and started running. Then his status window appeared and he looked at his boosted physical stats. He decided to fight back. He threw a stone at the creature's head and charged in with his sword. The monster hit him back. He summoned a pack of dogs to keep it occupied, but the alba heron dispatched them quickly, taking his buffs with them. His body felt too heavy to stand. The monster came at him again. He barely got his sword up in time to block, and felt for the first time that this might genuinely be the end.